Okay, so welcome back. I want to use what little is left of the night to look at the end game, the financial end game for this budget. Okay, we have a bunch of questions that we have not received answers for. I thought maybe we might get some of them from that from our departed guests, but they have departed. So. And the big question is, do we need to budget for the Hendry's demolition in both budget years? And the answer is, if that 317,000 that we have set aside can be encumbered if it represents a signed contract. That contract has not been signed for various legal reasons. So the answer is, I don't know yet if we have to accommodate that 317 in both places, but I think it should be our position that we should not have to. And they can have it in the balance of this year or next, but not both. Darnell.
Question: is there a way that we can choose to we need an article to appropriate it from prior year appropriation? So if we're gonna take it, just take it right out of the stabilization fund this year instead of letting it roll into free cash. So we save it. So if we do a prior year appropriation of 300,000 going into,
Pull it right out of our own reserve fund and move it forward.
move it forward directly. So that way we're really not, we're having it in one budget. It's basically that same 300,000
Right.
moving forward, and we're not losing 300,000 to.
And you know, we have an article to appropriate money from fiscal year 16, as it were, actually probably from fiscal year 14 free cash, for current year reserve fund, so that we can purpose that for snow and ice. So the answer is, you don't put as much in this year, and you put it into next year for that purpose, for the Hendry's purpose.
Right.
Okay. But it's a hassle, and we need to know what our strategy is so that we can vote, you know, what's possible, and so that we can vote it. Okay. And I'm not there yet on the 317,000. My assumption for the moment, going forward, just showing you where I think we stand, is that it can be encumbered, or we can deal with it, okay, so that we won't have to budget for it twice, okay? So,
That's good.
if I'm wrong, well, that'll be too bad. Okay, so, I just want to go back to this little thing I put up way back when. So, for starters, before I even get there, just verbally, since last we spoke, we had about $531,000 that we were dealing with as a sort of an unallocated, committed balance, although we knew we had some demands on it, like, yeah, I'm not ready to talk about it. No. And a couple little things happened. $7,000 treasurers, $15,000 the wrong way for Blue Hills because they got whacked with a much lower support from the governor, even as we were getting support from the governor. Anyway, we got a lot of money from the state. I don't know how much. Oh, anyway, when all is said and done, we have about $280,000 more than we thought on Wednesday night. We have about 810 total left. Okay. So the question is, what are we going to do with this? Okay. The first question is, how solid a number is this? In years past, the dynamic used to be that Deval Patrick would put out the governor's budget, and then the House and the Senate would knock it down to reality. So you'd always have to go, huh, this sounds great. Oh, whoops, it's going to come down 2%. This year, we have a Republican governor, and I don't know what the dynamic is going to be. Nobody does. We don't know if the House and the Senate are going to uphold his numbers, especially on local aid, and we don't know what. So do we reserve $100,000, say, as 1% of our state aid, which is almost $10 million? I think I need to ask a couple of the people who have their ear to the ground, like maybe Glenn or Pavlicek, the business manager at the school, who is in touch with the State House on a regular basis. So, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe call Mr. Timmelty or Mr. Joyce and say, how solid are these numbers? But that's a question. Because we don't want to just distribute everything if we think there's a good chance that it's not going to be there in a month. So, but anyway, so I put up this. Sorry, Lee Michael, I can get it bigger. What the hell is it? I give up. There it is. Thank you. Okay.
I can see it now.
Okay. So here's the deal. So the numbers have changed. The current numbers are these. Over here are our revenues. Our revenues are up a little bit because of the state. Our expenditures are down also because of the state, because they dropped their assessment on us. Okay. The spread has created about another $280,000 for us. So now, if we did nothing else except for take this money in and spend it on one-time items as opposed to operationally, it brings us down to this different level of direct support for operations from free cash. Brings it down to $395 from $675. Hell, last year we used $400 plus another $300 for debt service. Anyway, I'll bring this up to. Okay, so last year, so this is, I'll send this out too, but so this is just the uses of free cash. So right now, that would be $395 instead of $675. Come down here, and oh look, we have 510 to play with instead of 231. Okay. And so what might we do with it? Okay.
Bless you.
Thank you.
All right. So if we put, say, 120,000 into operations into somebody's budget, okay, that would bring up the amount of free cash that is supporting direct operations up to 515, which is about $500,000 less than the $1,017,000 that people bought into originally. What would that do to the rest of the score? Brings it down to $390,000 to meet demands. This is the $300,000 for Pickens. So
That passes, it's really.
sorry.
I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of you.
So
Going
anyway,
down the column.
so sorry. So now we have 690. Presuming the Pickens override passes, we would have 690.
You'll know that on election day, whether it passes, so you'll be able to factor that 300,000 in.
Right.
Okay.
And we have a week, and we can meet once and decide what to do. Okay. change our recommendation. And probably our note in anything we do for the warrant should say, if the Pickens thing passes, we'll be pleased to be able to do this, that, or the other thing. Or maybe not. So then if we had 690 left, we know we have requests for 459 in capital projects. That would leave 231,000 if we funded all of them. We don't know, another unknown right now is where do we stand with snow and ice? Okay, so I need that answer too. I think a lot of these answers we'll have by Wednesday. The snow and ice, the 317. You know, maybe we want to put 181 into snow and ice and another 50 into the reserve fund for fiscal year 16. That, of course, though, brings this number back up to 565 because it's an operational budget, and this is the number people are being sensitive about. I have Chuck and Darnell and
I have
Lee
to
Michael.
go, so I'm gonna toss some bonds and then leave.
Great.
It's kind of my way to leave. Yeah. I think looking at where the money came in from.
Yes.
I do feel a lot of it's Chapter 70. I do feel that something has to go back to the schools.
This is going back to what we were talking about last meeting.
Last week we kind of said we've said that, and so
Okay.
I'm beginning to get more uncomfortable, as much as I hate to say it, with taking a flyer on firefighter overtime and saying that come in for a reserve fund transfer.
Well, we didn't.
We did, but for next year, because I think the town administrator knocked his number down, saying that he's going to manage it, and I'm getting a little bit nervous about that because it is kind of anticipated. How long can you say that it's not anticipated if he comes in every year for a reserve? So,
Well, they didn't last year.
because he had his
the
openings,
vacancies, right.
his vacancies,
Right.
and I know
But
he's had people hurt, and maybe he'll have a healthy year, but it seems like so those two areas. I feel like if we're going to put money back into those, might be operational areas where we can do that. I'm pretty comfortable. I don't know if there was a lot of outrage on the original. I don't know what the original 515 was. Was it 6 something?
Oh, no. In the 6 scenarios I laid out,
Yeah.
2 were overrides.
Yeah.
And then the other 4 were increasing amounts of free cash used in direct operations. And we all settled around the one that used $1 million. Okay?
Right.
This scenario, we're down to 675.
I'm comfortable.
Without doing anything.
I'm personally comfortable putting.
We could be down to 400.
Right.
We could also go up to like 515.
As long as we're under the 675, I'm comfortable, and I do think those are the 2 areas where I saw when I was looking at the spreadsheet today. I said, well, I think it'll be hard. And I think we're all kind of, at least I'm kind of uncomfortable with the 0.2 cuts to those various teachers. That seems like a bad idea, and let me just even take a step back. If we're going to give something to the teachers, I think we've got to give something in the operational budget to the rest of the town.
Yeah.
Well, there's all kinds of ways to slice that one.
And now
For
myself.
instance, if you put this 120 at the schools, they would end up with of the money we restored above level, they would end up with less than about 61% of it, 59% of it, and the town with the other portion. So it's not an unfair split. Yeah,
And
59 versus 41.
Do you happen to know how much the school committee needs in order to avoid any layoffs?
Well, yeah, we do have yeah, we're not gonna get there.
For restoring those .2s, what do we need, 63,000?
You need 63,000.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't identify that 120, but here I am, identifying that 120. That I put in there so I could see what would happen. 63 is for the .7.2s, 57 is for the team teaching, the team taught history, okay, in the middle school. So that would make 120, so.
That's 120 right there, yeah.
So that's the 120 that I put on that spreadsheet, just when I was trying to figure out where things could drop if we wanted to. As far as eliminating anything, sorry. Okay, this is the school's cut list. Yeah, that's too much, sorry. At the bottom of it, it says 7.9 FTEs, and if you look at it, all of it except this little group is people, okay? And that group is 85,000, okay? So out of the 500, 85,000 is not people, okay? So, you know, it's not
120 wouldn't get you there.
not a happy thing, but the most egregious cuts are the point the 7.2s and perhaps this one here, this 57,000. Okay. Now, of course, we don't know what the schools are going to do.
Right.
True.
Okay. And we know that on the other hand, they do have, the advancement budget calls for 3.3 FTEs. However, only 1.3 of them are permanent. Okay, 2 of them are one-year stopgaps. So that's a little odd. Basically, this year's advancement budget is only adding about 186,000 to their permanent budget, even though it's, I mean, a lot of it is one time. So I don't know. I mean, that being said, 7.9 minus 1.3, I mean, they made some of their own choices. That's still 6.6 people that they need to fire. My feeling is, you know, you can try and restore some of that now, or we're going to be trying to restore it next year through an override. So I would, anyway, Jonathan.
Anybody with the historical memory to know when the schools have been given budgets which they claim will result in getting rid of bodies, whether in fact,
That has happened?
yeah, because they got 400 employees or whatever. I mean, I look at those lists, I'm sympathetic to the schools, don't get me wrong, but I also know how.
Sympathetic to the parents of the kids who are about to lose something, more so
Well,
than
no, my
anything
kid's
else.
graduating this year, so I've no more sympathy for parents, but or the kids.
Oh!
No, but seriously, I've seen, you know,
Okay.
I have seen how this works in the past.
I'll send it to you. They gave us a history last year.
I don't recall that.
And you know, outlining exactly what has happened each year, okay? And it's actually been, I'm trying to remember, there was a bloodbath 5 years ago or so, but since then it's been fairly benign, although this is now looking a little more grim.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't recall that document, but does that show what they said was going to happen as compared to what actually happened?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes.
I'd like to see that.
And you know, and to be fair, a couple of times they said, yeah, we were going to fire that assistant, and we discovered that we just couldn't get the job done that way, and we had to hire them back.
Well, what I'm thinking is, you know.
Yes, and so yes, they do sometimes find the money somewhere else,
Well,
okay,
Glenn-
especially when
Glenn
people
was
turn
here,
over.
he said there was
Yeah.
constant churn, and constant
Yeah.
churn means savings, often. So I'm just curious. Again,
Yeah.
I'd like to see that document.
Well, I don't have any problems with assuming that that the schools will figure out what to do with the money that we give them. But I don't, you know, I'm not sure I would have agreed with their decisions, you know, or their priorities this year, but that's, you know, we're not the school committee, we're not the teachers. you know,
What
we're not-
actually sparked my question was they're getting rid of a sped secretary. Having worked closely with schools, as general counsel to a school for a long time, you can't do that. I just don't believe they're gonna cut a sped secretary. Unless they're defining that, and from what Glenn said the other day, when he was in front of us, it seems to me, I think I understand what that person does. You can't do that. I can't believe they're serious about that. That's why I ask. The paperwork involved in sped, I'm sure you know, Patty.
Can I just tell you a little bit what happens, is that if they cut an administrative position, it actually puts more of the paperwork responsibilities on the teaching staff and the
Right.
specialists. So the work does get done, but it just doesn't get delegated like it had in the past, and there's less people to check. The administrators end up doing more of that stuff.
The
And that's sort of
administrator's not the teacher.
That's not a great use of resources, but that's what often happens.
I just can't see that actually going through. It's, I mean, with the burden they have with sped, that's in some ways the tougher cut. Hugely paper heavy.
But I worry that if they're pink slipping or notifying a lot of the music and art teachers now that their positions are gonna be 80%, that's gonna send a whole slew of young professional teachers out the doors, never to come back again, and that's gonna really decimate those programs.
Qualified, trained people.
And you know, as much as sped services are essential and necessary, some kids, you know, in sped, the reason that they thrive is because of music and because of art. If they don't have those outlets and they don't have that time, they really don't do very
But
well.
don't
So,
misunderstand,
yeah.
this would be the first thing that
Yeah.
I would, you know, put back, but I can't believe they're gonna dump a sped secretary. God help them if they do.
Well, I believe we heard Glenn say that they weren't sure how this was gonna work out, you know, or if it was doable.
Yeah.
So it may, Mike?
Yeah, so what happens if people, like, they get retirements or something like that? Say some older teachers that are in this book say, we think we gotta pay them next year, but they're, no, we don't. That might free up some money for them too, right? They wouldn't know until those retirements came in.
You know, ask Glenn what the retirement situation might do in terms of, you know, replacing a less expensive, a more expensive older teacher with a less expensive one. He said,
I say this because I know one is going to happen.
thank you. He
But I won't say more.
indicated to me that it would only save about $30,000 this year, and which I didn't know even where to begin with that, because it seemed like a ridiculously low figure.
Well, it's, you know,
So-
replacing somebody making 80 or 90 with somebody making 40 or 50, right?
Yeah, but that's one person. I can't believe he's only thinking that one person's gonna
There
turn
weren't
over.
many retirements as I went through the
Yeah.
personnel. There weren't many. I only saw.
You mean compared to the previous year? You don't have the previous book.
I'm sorry?
How did you do that?
Oh, no, when they presented this budget,
Yeah,
yeah. They didn't have many retiring. When they presented their personnel or
Right.
their staff, I
No, they
didn't
d-
see many,
no, they don't.
no.
But you can't tell from the budget they gave us, I don't think.
Well, they did say that they did. And I didn't see much of a savings. You know,
Mhm.
they were gonna do something with They were gonna,
Anyway.
you know, someone was gonna retire, they were replacing them, and there was savings, but it was very small.
Well, I mean, it's a $48 million enterprise with an awful lot of people working there, and some people are gonna turn over and they might get some savings.
Yeah.
But that's left to
But
chance.
as far as being able to measure that in advance and take advantage of it, you know, if you're depending on it, you're probably not gonna be happy with the results. So I don't know, I mean, it was given to us last year, so it may need another year of updating, but I do have that history. And it, you know, I don't know. Anyway, so let's move on past this. We do have to decide eventually, like soon, when we're voting budgets, what we want to do. And as far as where we stand, yeah, we've got a little balance. You know, we're better than we were, but I don't know where snow and ice stands. After this year, I would think anything else we could throw at next year's reserve fund wouldn't be a bad idea. In fact, I'm thinking we ought to do this 50,000 either for next year or this year in terms of attendant ancillary costs of the Henry's demolition if it happens, because that 317 was bare bones, if I remember.
Yeah, it's not enough.
Okay, and it's not gonna do it. So you know they're gonna be coming to us for, you know, all the
Bigger number.
MBTA costs aren't even in that 317.
Yeah, and we don't have, remember,
Right.
there's gonna be an EPA, assessment done on that property, so that's gonna be a nightmare too, so.
So these are all things we need to think about, and meanwhile, we could also just hold back on 100,000 and make everybody unhappy.
But you don't know what's gonna come up to, you know, you don't know,
Right.
it's not
Well,
much to work with.
this is holding back our estimate of state revenue,
Yeah,
okay? You know, we could do that. As far as our current reserve fund, we all know, we talked about that last Wednesday. We're down to 82,000. So, this is what we gotta think about. We are gonna have to vote our thoughts on this pretty soon. We could do Wednesday, we're gonna start out Wednesday with the liquor license, okay? For the plate, we're gonna move to the selectmen articles, landfill access authorization for easements, safe routes to schools, affordable housing. There is another one.
Are you gonna get the town administrator article too?
That's
No,
next
not
Monday.
till Monday. Affordable Housing Trust. There's another one that's looking for a possible $5,000 or $10,000. The Yulin Rink. I have some more questions on that. I'm sure maybe you do too. Special Purpose Fund, I've just been given a spreadsheet which corrects the one that came before, that was pretty rosy about its ability to raise lots of money in a short order. So this one is back to reality. But I haven't looked at it yet. That's what Tom told me. So we'll probably want to look at the Special Purpose Fund again Wednesday, and we have Pickens. That's a pretty easy one. I think we ought to just vote the $300,000 as a placeholder for that and be done with it. But anyway.
Do we have a recommendation? Do we do that now?
I haven't written the recommendation, so
Right.
I'll bring them in on Wednesday.
Okay.
Yeah, so, Phil, we just went through sort of the possibilities for the 810,000 we have left uncommitted, although I think most of us would like to fund the capital projects that aren't bonded, that are put in front of us for about 459, that's this number here. We talked about maybe some money going back to the schools, 63 or 120,000, we just still have a lot of variables. We don't know what snow and ice stands at now. I'm waiting to hear about the strategy on the 317 set aside for Hendry's, and I want to get some feedback on how solid the state revenue number will be. So, I don't think we're ready to vote anything yet, but we'll do so soon. Darnell?
Are we gonna see Joe again before?
Joe?
Joe, yeah.
Oh, yes, we're
Wednesday.
seeing Joe tomorrow. He'll be,
Wednesday.
sorry, Wednesday. After the liquor, we'll see Joe. He's got to talk about the Safe Routes to Schools articles, and I've also let him know that we need updates and confirmation on numbers and terms on the 4 appropriations, water and sewer capital, Chapter 90, a list of roads I asked him for. I'm sure your road's going to be on there,
No, it's
Darnell.
not.
No
It's
worries.
not gonna be on there. It's just not on there. And how about, can we,
Yeah.
and the reason I asked that, can we pump him and see what do we know about what's come down as far as trees and stuff, and we might need to, if we can infuse something into replacing some of those things in the neighborhood after this winter, because we probably need something in the tree budget. 'Cause I know we're hacking things down now, and it cost over. So,
Well, I'd
give
love
us
to
an
put
idea.
5 into his signs budget, but
I think more important than that would be
and clean up from what's going on afterwards.
yeah.
they're putting together, my understanding is that they're putting together a plan now to go out, once the weather moderates, and start doing something
Patching.
about the potholes that are all over this town.
Well, yeah, this is
Oh,
Dave.
I don't
they
know
were
what
out
that's-
there today.
Yeah,
They were out there
that's
today,
gonna
right
cost.
in front of my house on Randolph Avenue. It was
What a coincidence.
great. Right.
But no, this is a problem, but it's also,
All your
you see
hard
all the
work
trees
done.
that are
Yeah.
getting like hacked away and stuff, so if we
Right in
have
front of
extra
your
money
house, right?
and stuff, and something that we can say is gonna, for the community.
They don't know where
unify
you
the
live
communities,
anymore.
Getting those trees back up and at least started, and, you know, again, potholes and,
Yeah.
you know,
So that'll be a
this
topic.
is
I
rougher
bet
than.
we could repurpose $50,000 out of the
Yes.
selectmen's account
Yes. Um,
Yeah,
for
well,
trees.
so that can be a general topic is
Yeah.
post-storm,
Potholes.
post-winter
Potholes.
remediation
Post-storm,
of all
you know.
sorts.
post-storm cleanup or whatever,
I'm sure they don't have the money for all of it, and
none of that, no.
they're probably gonna do a little bit out of what they can squeeze out of their current fiscal year budget, and then start using some of next year's when the fiscal year turns, but
So, I say we purpose some of that Henry's
Right.
money.
otherwise
Actually,
citizens
the
are gonna
project,
start
huh?
suing the town for car repairs.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll start happening.
Last year, there was 0 in claims, fiscal year 14. So,
But this year I think it's gonna be different.
you know, because maybe it's all the transients, the cut-through commuters who damage their cars on our potholes
Right.
instead of residents.
Well,
Hey,
they have
Michael.
standing.
Mr. Chair, motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thanks, guys. See you Wednesday.